Hello and welcome to Card Shop Insider, a podcast where we are bringing together decades of experience from both sides of the counter to take you inside the business of local game stores and collectible gaming hobbies. I'm Noah. I like to play games.
I'm John.
And he's John. I play games. I play a lot of them. John owns a card shop and is a veteran of the gaming industry. And we're pretty excited to bring our perspectives together to bring this podcast to you. For our first episode today, I thought we'd start off by introducing both of our experiences and talking about why we think this is a topic that's worth spending time on. And John, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your history owning the shop here?
Do I have to?
It'd be ideal.
All right, my name is John, as Noah had mentioned. I got into owning this shop about 22 years ago. And it started out as a hobby, and now it's an all-consuming job. My background is in the pharmaceutical industry, and I semi-retired, and I was looking, for something to do. I had gotten bored, and I decided to open up a toy store, hence the name of my shop. And I can mention the name. It's the Toy Factory in Hillsborough, North Carolina. And I was selling Beanie Babies and things like that. And then one kid came in one day and said, "Can you get Pokemon cards?" So I kind of looked at him. I said, "What the are Pokemon cards?" That's how it all started. I got an account with Wizards of the Coast because they were the distributor for Pokemon at the time. And the rest is history. And that's what I'm doing now. And, I'm going to be in my late 70s soon. Late 70s, God forbid, and I'm still kicking it. All right, now go ahead. You do it.
Well, so John, when I walk in the shop today, I don't see any toys or Beanie Babies, though. When did you drop out of the toy market and start doing only cards?
About 15 years ago. Because, I just changed the business model.
Okay.
People still come in the store looking for toys, looking for used toys and that type of thing. But the problem is with eBay and all the secondary marketers online selling all this kind of stuff, it took it out of the hands of small stores. Plus, the cost of running the business just to have a customer come in and say, "Hey, do you have a 1960 Tonka truck?" It just didn't make any sense because the rent is so darn expensive nowadays.
Well, maybe that'll be part of a topic that we'll talk about in the future, some of the ways that expenses and market changes over the years have affected the business. But I guess I've known you for almost the whole time that you've owned the shop.
Yep, I've taken your money ever since that time, and your grandfather's money, and your mother's money.
That's right. I remember coming in the first time I met you. It was a long time ago. You had Star Wars CCG printed by Decipher. You were local. I'm from Hillsborough. I found your shop and came in. And bought a box of the Hoth cards from you, and I've been shopping with you pretty much ever since. So in that time, I've seen the changes that have gone on with the store and the gaming space. And I guess you and I spoke the other day. We talked about the fact that it's not really a hobby store like what you would see if you're Googling hobby store on the internet that includes miniatures and collectibles and all the other things, but it's a card game store. We sell and play Magic mostly and probably primarily.
Yep.
A good deal of Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets sold and played in the store. And recently we've had a lot of fun bringing in some of the newer games. We've got the Disney community that's been coming in, playing those and buying a lot of that product. And then also now we tried something with the Star Wars game that's put out by Fantasy Flight recently and had some really good initial interest level and a lot of fun with that. But it's still like the backbone of the store still seems like it's going to be Magic. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's evolved over the years. I mean, Magic is still a pretty significant amount of the business. But as you mentioned, the other games are starting to become more mainstream right now. But, getting back to the way I started this business, I didn't have a lot of money when I first started it. I kind of retired and I wanted something to do. So I put it all on credit cards. And it took me about 3 or 4 years to climb out of that hole. But I learned a lesson. I said, I don't need to carry all the paints. I don't need to carry all these other games that people come in every once in a while and want to buy one figure or one little jar of paint or a tube of glue. With the advent of the internet and online selling becoming more and more prevalent, it's much easier for people to do that, and they're bypassing us. So what I decided to do was keep it as a local community store. I get a lot of local people coming in. I'm not a big store by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't want to be a big store because I run the business by myself. I have some help, for cleanup and things like that. And my son helps me once in a while. But so this is the reason why I kept it as a small, informal, if that's the proper term, card shop where people can come in and they can play amongst their friends and have a good time.
Well, we've got a lot of things that we've talked about for future plans for episodes in the podcast, but why don't we talk a little bit more about what you think the Card Shop Insider is all about? What do you think we're going to be able to share with the people that are listening to us today?
Well, as I mentioned to you before, I'm in my late 70s, so I'm going to ask you to pick whatever's left of my brain. You're going to have to draw some of these things out of me, but I could tell you stories of some people that come in and over the years and how they try to put it over on you. And you got to be sharp. You got to be aware. One thing I do remember are pretty much 95% of my customers. I know most of their names. I recognize their faces. Even though I may have not seen somebody in 10 years, they'll come back with their own little child. And I'll say, hey, I remember you. I forgot your name, but I remember your face. And that goes a long way as far as building customer rapport and credibility, with a small shop like this. I'm not a big box store where they cram everybody in and, they got 20 employees, but nobody knows your name and you don't get customer service from that. That's the most important thing, customer service.
Yeah, I think that you create a great experience, and we've had a lot of fun here over the years, meeting new people, getting people that are coming back into the store. I think the vibe that you have in the store a lot of the time encourages people to be able to come and go. It's not like a religious service where you're trying to get there every week and you have to be in the store or you're missing out on a lot of stuff. But whether you've been in every week for a month or whether it's once a quarter, I think people feel like they're part of the group and that they can fit in when they get into the store. And then obviously your hospitality, knowing who people are, remembering names and talking to them is great customer service and helps people really appreciate the environment that's created in the store. John, what about as far as your experience goes? We talked about the idea that, we've got space in the store for gaming. How do you feel about having a space where people come in and play? You don't play these games, is that right?
I used to play Pokemon.
Okay.
When that kid came in that one time and asked if I can get Pokemon, he convinced me to start playing. However, once we started playing, I was getting more and more customers coming in to play. And if I was sitting there playing and somebody was at the counter, I'd have to stop the game, get up, and tend to the counter. Then I quickly realized I couldn't really do both. It's a business to run. And that's really what I needed to do, is run the business instead of sitting there playing the game. I rely on other people that know how to play the game. You, for instance, you come in, I ask you questions, you volunteered to judge, you demoed things. Other people have come in and have been more than gracious to help me out, and that's what I rely on.
How do you deal with discrepancies with people that come in the store and have problems playing and they want to argue about games and rules and stuff like that?
Somebody else will step up to the pump and usually help. And I'll be honest, if people come in and they'll ask me a question, I say, I honestly don't know, but I'll try to find out for you. That's the most important thing. You got to get back to them with information. You just can't BS your way through it.
I think that's a fair point. I think people understand when you know what you're talking about and what's coming and what's going. It's getting pretty hard to stay on top of that release schedule, though, with Magic releasing something every couple of weeks and overlapping that with your Yu-Gi-Oh!, your Star Wars, your Pokemon. How do you keep track of all these schedules, John?
I don't. There is a problem. The gaming industry, it's all about money. Let's face it. Everybody's trying to get their slice of the pie, and they come out with all these, these variations of sets, and they come in different packaging, and, they got the Walmart version and the Target version, and they got this and that, and it's very, very difficult. But what I realize is if somebody comes in and say it's a kid that has $100 a month discretionary income, or he has a part-time job, his parents may give him a little bit of money. Suppose he comes in and he says, well, I got $100 that I'm going to spend on Magic this month. But all of a sudden he wants to play Star Wars. Well, he's not going to come up with $200 a month. He's going to still have that $100 a month. So what he's going to do is he's going to allocate it to 50 or 60% for Magic and the other 30 or 40% or whatever it's going to be for something else plus accessories. That's really how it works.
I think that's part of the issue with trying to get new people into the store, though, right? We've talked about this with the Star Wars game coming out. I think one of the marketing strategies that was communicated to us through the channels, through the distributor and through Fantasy Flight Games, was that they are looking to pull people into the gaming hobby, to the card gaming hobby, that are not necessarily in the hobby right now. So they are trying to support you by getting new people to come into the store that aren't being forced to split their budget between Magic and Star Wars or Pokemon and Star Wars, but they're looking for those people that have like a love for the IP, the Star Wars idea, and want to come and learn how to do something new and make a new group of friends and play. I think that's been a really cool thing to look at and talk about over the last couple months leading up to the release of that game in particular.
Well, one other thing I want to make the disclaimer now. These are my views and my views only. Other card shop owners, they operate the store in the manner that they think is sufficient for their needs. This has always worked for me. And sometimes it agonizes me for a period of time to make decisions about what I'm going to carry, what I'm not going to carry, what I'm going to axe. I'll give you, for instance, Digimon. When we first started Digimon started out very, very well. We'd have 8 to 10 people, maybe 12 people. Then all of a sudden, some of the other stores started running these Digimon events where they would offer $1,000 tournaments. Well, I'm not going to do that. Because of the physical size of the store and the capacity that the store can handle, I can't bring in enough people to justify a $1,000 tournament. Yeah, if I have 20 people that I can support in the store and I charge them $50 a person to come into play, it makes no sense. Plus, you don't make any money. You got to be smart about this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we've talked as a possible future episode, is talking about some of those decisions about what type of play you host in the store and why. Maybe let me run over some of the ideas that we've talked about possibly doing future episodes on, and maybe if you want to give us a sentence or two what you think might be in those episodes, so we can give a forecast for folks listening to this one, what they're looking for in the future. So we talked a little bit about it already, but product selection, choosing between different games and maybe even different products in those games.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that. I don't carry board games. I did carry a few here and there, but unfortunately, because of limited storage space and display space, I can't do it. And most of the distributors require you to buy them in case quantities. So if somebody wants one game, yeah, I might have to buy 6 of that copy. And there's no way in hell I'm going to be selling 6 copies.
Yeah, that can be understandable. That brings up a different topic. We could talk about distribution. I think one of the things I found interesting in getting to know you and the store a lot better is understanding a little bit of the background of how the store operates, and sort of the lifeblood of the store is your relationship with distributors. I think that would be a really cool topic for us to be able to talk about more in the future.
We can, and it's all personal relationships that you develop over the years. One of my sales reps if he left the company, I would have a hard time staying with that company. I would try to find somebody else. But knowing that I call him up every week and he helps me, and he makes suggestions, not with the sole intent that he's trying to bilk me for as much money as he can, which some sales reps will try to do. He's very helpful, and he recommends things that I should carry. And then it's my decision whether I want to carry 10 copies of this or I want to carry, 2 or 3. He works with me. And distribution is very, very important. And that's something we'll touch on, because there's some distributors out there I would not deal with. I don't like them. I don't like the reputations that they have. I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't need us to have a lawsuit on our hands. But yeah, there's some out there that I wouldn't deal with. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think when we talk about that in a future episode, maybe we can get into some of the discussion that again, it's your personal experience with them. And other people on the internet in particular, where we find people that disagree with things a lot, might have had different experiences with different distributors, and they might have had positive experiences. But I think we know that sometimes things boil down to first impressions, and a lot of times a bad first impression can go a long way towards building or breaking a relationship. Another fun topic I thought we might get to at some point is talking about your decision about online sales. I know if you want to briefly tell us about it, you have an interesting position about online sales that I think people would find kind of surprising.
Which one?
The fact that you don't do them.
I did sell on TCG at one time. And I remember, this is when they had, I don't really remember the exact, I think it was $1 and over, they would pay shipping or something. I forgot. $1 or under, I would pay shipping. That's not going to happen because I would have people order 11 cards at 9 cents a piece. So that's 99 cents. And then it would cost me, I forgot what it was, but at that time, just for the mailing was 46 cents. And by the time you put your time and effort and your other supplies in it, your shipping supplies and your protective supplies in it, I wasn't making any money. And then one day I came in and I had 46 orders. And it took me all day to fill it. Doing it again by myself. And then I said, there ain't no way in hell I'm doing this anymore. And I stopped because I didn't make any money that day. And that's why I won't do it. I'll sell occasionally on eBay. Occasionally. But, eBay gets 13% basically between eBay and PayPal.
Yeah.
They started using eBay to do their own finance or whatever the hell they do now.
Everybody figured out that processing payments in-house can be better, so they've created their own. But I mean, and in that episode in the future, we'll talk, I've got a little bit of a different perspective on the online sales. I do know, and John knows this, that I sell my personal cards on TCG Player occasionally, particularly when new sets come out that are really cool that I want to open up a bunch of stuff, and in order for me to continue to fund, my hobby, I will take and resell cards that I've opened from packs and make a little bit of money from them. But you have to set limits, sort of like what you were talking about there, John, with the cost of shipping, deciding whether it's profitable or not. And as an individual trying to sell cards on the marketplace like that, you have to set a limit. You can't sell a card that costs less than a certain amount of money, or it's going to cost you too much in shipping supplies and postage to get it out. And then you're really not making any money and you're just shipping away the stuff that you paid for. So we'll talk about that again, I think, in the future.
Let me stop you for 1 second. I have another quick story.
Let's do it.
Before I opened up a store, I tested the market and I sold at the flea market. And that's when Beanie Babies were really, really hot. And I was doing very, very well with Beanie Babies. And then all of a sudden, you saw Beanie Babies all over the flea market. So I said to one guy one time, I said, did you make any, how many did you sell? He said, I sold $1,000. He said, I made $1,000 today. I said, you made $1,000. That's what you took in. How much does it cost you for the Beanie Babies? Well, it cost me $500. I said, okay. I said, how much did it cost you for the space for the 2 days? He said, about $140. I said, all right, so now you're down to $360. And I said, that's what you probably made, but you didn't even pay your taxes on it yet. And he looked at me and he said, you have to pay taxes on this? I said, yeah, you have to pay taxes on it because you needed a resale license to sell at the flea market. He didn't have one at the time. So basically he made $200 in 2 days of being at the flea market in July. It was hotter than hell. It wasn't worth it. I explained to him how to make some money.
Yeah.
He had to raise his prices because he was undercutting everybody.
Yeah, I think that's a backbone of another concept that I hope we might talk about is the idea of the balance between your role in the community as like a game store and a game place, the gathering place for people that play some of these games, but also like balancing your need to run a business. You obviously enjoy this. I think you've done it for a long time. You could have found other things to do with your business acumen, but the people you meet here have kept you in the business and allowed you to run the store. But there's got to be money coming across the table for this to occupy so much of your time. And so the balance between how you open up the store for open play and for people to be part of the gaming community and balancing that with the business side of it, I think would be a cool discussion to have about how those things relate. And I've seen some conversations on the internet that certainly could spark ongoing debate and turmoil amongst listeners if we get to that point.
Well, I tell you what, Noah, I think we spent enough time with this today. This is our introductory podcast, letting you know what we want to do. And as for my perspective. I'm going to be repetitive. And the reason I'm going to be repetitive is because I probably forgot what I've talked about. So don't be a bit surprised if I say it again. So, I hope everybody likes what we're doing. I hope we get some good feedback from it. If you have any suggestions, we'll find a way to find them from you. So, Noah, what's your take on it today?
Yeah, well, let me tell the listeners a couple of quick things. Obviously, you found this podcast to hear it. Initially, we're going live with this on Spotify, but we're also going to try to get it on all of your major podcast platforms. You should be able to hear us on Google as well as on iTunes or Apple Play. And we'll get it on YouTube. We'll get it on any of the media sharing sites that you can listen. We'll open up comments on those platforms so you can communicate with us. We're also planning to open up options for support for the show. So obviously liking the show, doing the thumbs up thing on any of your platforms, subscribing to get updates on those platforms. All of those are free ways that you can support the show. And then eventually, if you're feeling value from this, we'd like to open up an option for Patreon. We'll have that set up in the imminent future with an easy starter tier, and looking to open up other tiers and features that will include exclusive listener polls, maybe access to show notes or other background information, maybe extended cuts from some of the stuff that we record. And then also we're going to be on social media. We've got an Instagram account that is at Card Shop Insider. We're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, with at Card Shop Insider there as well. We'll be posting links to our episodes there, maybe as well as some questions and other things for feedback and interaction with the community that we hope to build here. Because I think in the gaming culture, community is such a big part of it, and part of this podcast will be creating a community that goes outside of the little neighborhood that we have here. And I'm excited to take part in that.
Sounds good, Noah.
All right, well, we'll sign off for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and look forward for our next episode coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.